command center was a vortex of focused activity as the countdown reached 0. Lucas watched the main screen, which displayed the first wave of retrofitted satellites moving into their attack trajectories. Beside him, Jasmine Miles monitored the response from the Zaltrax fleet, her face set in a mask of concentration. "Initiating first strike now," she announced, her voice steady despite the palpable tension in the room. As the command was given, the satellites, once mere space junk, propelled forward, darting towards the Zaltrax ships with surprising speed and agility. The screens showed the first interactions, bursts of light indicating successful contacts. "Direct hits on targets Bravo and Charlie," reported Sean Parkers, excitement bleeding through his professional demeanor. "Looks like they didn't see that coming." Lucas allowed himself a brief smile but remained vigilant. "Keep on them. Launch second wave and prepare for countermeasures." The battle unfolded with breathtaking speed. The Zaltrax, taken aback by the initial assault, scrambled their fighters, sleek vessels that moved with lethal precision. However, the chaotic movement of Earth's jury-rigged satellites created a defensive pattern that was hard to predict. Dr. Eli Turner, overseeing the tech analysis, updated Lucas. "The Zaltrax are having trouble locking onto our satellites. The irregular patterns are confusing their targeting systems." Lucas nodded, his mind racing through the next steps. "Good. Jasmine, push the next squadron into the fray. Let's keep them off balance." As more satellites zoomed into battle, an uneasy hope began to ripple through the command center. On Earth, crowds gathered around public screens watched in awe and anxiety as updates and live feeds reported the progress of the skirmish. In a small bar in New York, patrons cheered as a particularly large piece of space debris cleverly retrofitted with a propulsion pack smashed into a Zaltrax cruiser, causing it to veer off course. "Go Earth!" someone shouted, the sentiment echoed by many. Back at the command center, General Anderson watched the unfolding battle with a grudging respect. "I'll be damned. The crazy plan is actually working." Lucas, however, remained focused on the tactical display. "We've got them rattled, but expect them to adapt quickly. We need to escalate before they regroup." Following Lucas's command, the next phase of the plan was enacted. Earth's defense satellites, which had been held in reserve, now joined the chaotic ballet of debris. These satellites were equipped with more sophisticated weaponry, including electromagnetic pulse, EMP, generators that had been adapted from Threxian technology. As the EMPs were activated, several Zaltrax ships lost power temporarily, drifting helplessly. Cheers erupted in the command center and around the world as the tide appeared to turn in Earth's favor. Lucas stood, eyes fixed on the screen, knowing that this was just the beginning. "Prepare all units for sustained engagement. This battle isn't over yet." Jasmine, maintaining her calm amidst the storm of activity, coordinated the movements of the fleet. "We're on it, Captain. All units have confirmed receipt of new orders." The battle raged on, with Earth's improvised arsenal performing beyond expectations. Yet Lucas knew that the Zaltrax would not be defeated easily. They were a formidable enemy, and the initial success was just the first chapter in what promised to be a grueling conflict. As the skirmish continued, Earth's forces remained vigilant, adapting to every new challenge. Lucas's leadership was a beacon, guiding his team through the chaos of battle with a steadiness that inspired confidence. This was humanity's first stand in an interstellar war, a stand made with the unlikeliest of weapons, and they were determined to defend their home, no matter the odds. Weeks had passed since the first appearance of the Verox, and the world remained on edge. The initial promise of peace had quickly soured as reports of disappearances and coercion began to surface. Mark, Tom, and Dr. Sandoval had become key figures in the global task force assembled to confront the alien presence. In the command center, a room buzzing with monitors and tense energy, the trio reviewed the latest intelligence reports. The Verox had established bases in secluded areas across the globe, each emitting a strange, low-frequency signal that seemed to facilitate their control. "We need to understand the full capabilities of these signals. If we can disrupt them, maybe we can give people a fighting chance," Dr. Sandoval suggested, examining the waveforms on a screen. Mark, having experienced the immunity to their influence, became the cornerstone of their tests. "Every time they try to tap into human minds, I feel this buzz. It's like they're knocking, but they can't come in," he described, hoping it might provide a clue. Tom, who had been retrofitting their tech to shield others, chimed in. "We've been working on a device based on Mark's feedback. It's not perfect, but it's a start." Their strategy session was interrupted by an urgent alert. The main screen in the command center lit up with a new message from the Verox, more demanding than before. People of Earth, your resistance is noted but futile. The voice of the Verox leader, cold and metallic, filled the room. Submit to integration or face consequences. You have 24 hours to comply. The ultimatum sent a wave of fear across the globe. World leaders scrambled to respond, many leaning towards submission out of fear of annihilation. In a private meeting with military leaders and key government officials, Mark and his team argued for resistance. We can't just bow down to them. We've started to make progress with the anti-control devices. Give us a chance to deploy them, Mark pleaded. General Abrams, a gruff man with a strategic mind, nodded. Jensen's right. We roll over now, we might never get back up. I say we fight. With the decision made, the team worked feverishly to prepare. Tom and a group of engineers mass-produced the anti-control devices, while Dr. Sandoval coordinated with scientists around the world to create a counter-signal that could potentially neutralize the Verox's influence. As the deadline approached, Mark visited the newly established resistance bases, distributing the devices and rallying the troops. These devices will help protect you from their control. Use them to safeguard yourselves and those you care about, he instructed, handing out the last of the devices to a determined group of volunteers. At one base, a young soldier approached Mark. Sir, my family's out there. I want to fight, but I'm scared of what the Verox might do to them. Mark placed a reassuring hand on the soldier's shoulder. We're all scared, but that's why we're fighting. So no one has to live in fear of these invaders. We're in this together. As the 24-hour deadline came to an end, a tense silence fell over the command center. All eyes were on the screens, waiting for the Verox's next move. Mark stood with Tom and Dr. Sandoval, united in their resolve but uncertain of the future. We've done everything we can, Mark said quietly, watching the digital clock tick down. Now, we see if it's enough. The seconds dwindled, and as the clock struck 0, the room held its breath, ready for whatever came next. As the clock struck 0 following the Verox ultimatum, the command center braced for an attack. Instead, the silence continued, broken only by the hum of computers and the tense breathing of those present. Mark, Tom, and Dr. Sandoval exchanged glances of tentative relief. Their preparations had perhaps given the Verox pause. We need to use this time wisely. Let's assume they're planning their next move. We should make ours, Dr. Sandoval urged, breaking the silence. Mark nodded in agreement. We need to be proactive. Tom, how many of the anti-control devices do we have ready? A few thousand at this point. Production is ramping up, but it's not fast enough to cover everyone yet, Tom reported, his face lined with fatigue. That will have to do for now. Let's get them to the most vulnerable areas first, Mark decided, turning to the maps displayed on the walls. The locations of Verox bases were marked, along with reported incidents of mind control. Their strategy shifted to guerrilla warfare, employing hit-and-run tactics to destabilize the Verox presence on Earth. Small teams, equipped with the anti-control devices, began targeting Verox bases around the globe, disrupting their operations and gathering intelligence. In one daring mission, Mark led a team into the Amazon rainforest, where a major Verox control hub was hidden. The dense foliage provided cover as the team navigated the treacherous terrain, evading alien patrols. Everyone keep your devices on at all times. Remember, they can't control what they can't touch, Mark reminded his team as they approached the Verox facility. Using explosives they had carried, the team set charges around the facility's main structures. As they retreated to a safe distance, Mark gave the signal, and the night lit up with fire and debris. The hub was destroyed, severing a crucial node in the Verox communication network. As they made their escape, a Verox patrol intercepted them, leading to a tense standoff. Mark and his team, protected by their devices, fought back. The Verox, unable to exert their mind control, resorted to physical confrontation, but were ultimately repelled. Breathing heavily, Mark checked on his team. Is everyone okay? Yeah, we're all good. They didn't expect that, one of the team members responded, a grin breaking through the tension. Back at the command center, news of their success spread quickly, boosting morale. Tom clapped Mark on the back as they reviewed the aftermath via satellite images. That's one down. How many more to go? Too many, Dr. Sandoval replied grimly. But this is a good start. We need to keep hitting them hard and fast, disrupt their ability to regroup. Mark nodded, feeling the weight of their responsibility. We'll give them no quarter. For every base they set up, we'll be there to take it down. The Resistance's successes began to inspire more people around the world. Reports came in daily of other groups using the tactics and technology developed by Mark's team to protect their communities and push back against the Verox. Each victory, no matter how small, was celebrated as a step towards reclaiming their planet. As they planned their next operations, Mark felt a renewed sense of purpose. We've shown that they're not invincible. Let's keep the pressure on and take back our world, one base at a time. As resistance against the Verox grew, Mark and his team's small victories began to inspire broader global action. Their guerrilla tactics, honed through relentless skirmishes, were disseminated widely among various resistance cells worldwide. Yet, with greater success came harsher retaliation from the Verox, who now understood the depth of human resilience and ingenuity. One afternoon, as Mark, Tom, and Dr. Sandoval were strategizing in their makeshift command center, an urgent message came through. A new Verox weapon had been deployed in New York City, a massive psychic amplifier capable of overwhelming even their latest version of the anti-control devices. The trio knew this was a turning point. If they didn't act, the balance could swiftly tip back in favor of the Verox. "We need to take that amplifier down before they can bring it to full power," Dr. Sandoval said, his voice tense with urgency. Tom nodded, his hands already busy preparing the necessary equipment. "I've got some ideas for a jamming device that could buy us some time, but it's going to be risky. We'll need to get right into the heart of the city." Mark clapped his shoulder, a determined glint in his eye. "Then that's what we'll do. We faced long odds before. Let's gear up and move out." The streets of New York were deserted as the team made their way towards the location of the amplifier. The silence was oppressive, a stark contrast to the vibrant city Mark remembered. As they approached the towering device, pulsing ominously with a deep hum, the sense of urgency increased. "Okay, here's the plan," Mark whispered, crouched behind a deserted vehicle with his team. "Tom, you and your group will set up the jammer. Eric, you're with me. We'll cover them and make sure they can work uninterrupted. Everyone else, secure the perimeter and keep your eyes peeled for Verox patrols." The team split up, moving quickly and quietly into position. Tom worked feverishly to assemble the jamming device, his hands steady despite the palpable tension. Meanwhile, Mark and Dr. Sandoval positioned themselves for a potential firefight, knowing that the success of this mission hinged on protecting Tom's efforts. Suddenly, a low whirring sound broke the stillness, and a Verox patrol, alerted by the disruption to their systems, descended upon the area. The human team reacted swiftly. A fierce firefight ensued, with Mark and his team leveraging their understanding of Verox tactics against them. As bullets and energy beams crisscrossed the abandoned plaza, Tom shouted over the chaos, "Almost there. Just need a few more seconds." Mark reloaded his weapon, his eyes scanning for more threats. "Hold the line, everyone. We're not losing this city today." With a final, deft movement, Tom activated the jammer. The device emitted a sharp, piercing sound that caused the amplifier to falter. The Verox, momentarily disoriented, ceased their advance, clutching their heads in confusion. Seizing the opportunity, the resistance fighters intensified their assault, driving the patrol back. The amplifier, its signals now erratic, began to malfunction, emitting sparks and smoke. "We did it!" Dr. Sandoval exclaimed, relief washing over his face as the Verox retreated. Mark nodded, allowing himself a moment of triumph amidst the smoke and debris. "Today, we've shown them that Earth won't fall easily. Let's get back to base and prepare. This war is far from over, but now they know we can hit them hard." As they made their way back through the silent streets, the team felt a renewed sense of purpose. Each victory, each successful defiance against the Verox fortified their resolve to keep fighting, to reclaim their world, one battle at a time. Following their significant victory in New York, morale within the human resistance surged. However, the Verox responded with increased brutality and cunning. They began using decoys to mislead the Resistance's efforts, a strategy that led to Mark's capture during a particularly treacherous mission intended to dismantle another psychic amplifier on the outskirts of Chicago. The operation had started smoothly, with Mark leading a small, skilled team through the deserted, windswept streets of the city. But as they neared their target, the scene eerily shifted. Suddenly, they were ambushed. Blinding lights and a powerful, disorienting hum overpowered the team's senses. "Mark, look out!" shouted Tom, just as a net, seemingly out of nowhere, ensnared Mark. His team fought valiantly to free him, but additional Verox reinforcements quickly overwhelmed them. In the chaos, Mark was taken, and his last view was of Tom and the others retreating under heavy fire. Aboard the Verox ship, Mark was isolated in a stark, metallic cell. His mind raced with worry for his team and the implications of his capture. His thoughts were abruptly interrupted when the door hissed open, revealing a tall Verox commander. The alien's eyes shimmered with a curious light as it regarded him. "Mark Jensen, your resistance is noteworthy. Why do you fight when you know defeat is inevitable?" the commander asked, its voice a calm, metallic whisper. Mark, defiant despite the circumstances, replied, "Freedom is worth fighting for. You wouldn't understand, it's a human thing." The commander chuckled, a sound that sent shivers down Mark's spine. "Perhaps, or perhaps you are merely unwilling to see the bigger picture." Over the next few hours, Mark was subjected to a barrage of questions about the Resistance's plans and technology. He gave nothing away, bolstering his resolve against the Verox's probing. Eventually, the commander changed tactics, revealing details about the Verox civilization. "Our planet was destroyed by a cataclysm. We wandered the stars, seeking a new home. Earth is suitable, but we cannot coexist with such a rebellious species," the commander explained, its tone almost regretful. Mark listened, his engineering mind analyzing every word for any advantage. "And so, you try to conquer us, to strip us of our will. That's no way to coexist. Your immunity, Mr. Jensen, makes you unique. It's why we have not forced compliance upon you, as a sign of respect," the commander said, pausing as if searching for the correct word. After hours of fruitless interrogation, realizing that Mark would not break, the commander left him alone, promising that his resolve would falter in time. Using his engineering skills and a small, overlooked flaw in the cell's construction, Mark began to work on an escape plan. He meticulously dismantled a panel inside his cell using improvised tools gleaned from his surroundings. Slowly, a route to freedom began to take shape. Days later, Mark put his plan into action. Exploiting the shift change of his guards, he slipped out of his cell through the maintenance ducts he had painstakingly mapped out in his head. Stealthily, he navigated the labyrinth of the Verox ship, eventually finding himself in a hangar bay. His heart racing, Mark commandeered a small Verox scout vessel. The craft was bizarrely intuitive, almost as if it was designed to be piloted mentally. Mark, relying on his innate immunity to avoid any traps that might control the craft, successfully piloted it away from the Verox ship, back towards Earth. As he re-entered Earth's atmosphere, Mark contacted the Resistance using the scout vessel's communication system. "This is Mark Jensen. I'm coming in hot with a Verox vessel and a lot of intel. Be ready." His escape was not just a personal victory, but a beacon of hope for the Resistance. Mark's return was celebrated, and the information he brought back provided invaluable insights into the Verox's plans and technology, reigniting the human fight for freedom with newfound vigor. Mark's daring escape and the intelligence he gathered sparked a pivotal shift in the Resistance's strategy. With a deeper understanding of the Verox's technology and tactics, the global Resistance began to synchronize their efforts more effectively. Mark, now seen as something of a strategic mastermind as well as a symbol of undying human spirit, spearheaded the planning of a coordinated strike against the remaining Verox strongholds spread across Earth. In the dimly lit war room, Mark laid out the plan on a large digital map, detailing the locations and weaknesses of Verox installations. Tom, Dr. Sandoval, and a group of military strategists from various countries gathered around, each one ready to play a part in the upcoming offensive. "We have a window of opportunity here. The Verox are still reeling from the loss of their scout vessel and the exposure of their plans," Mark explained, pointing to key targets. "We hit these sites simultaneously. We cripple their infrastructure and we cripple their ability to fight." Tom, handling the technical aspects, distributed modified devices that could disrupt Verox communications. "These will give us a serious edge. The tech Mark brought back helped us enhance the range and effectiveness." Dr. Sandoval, coordinating scientific support, added, "We've also tailored a series of EMPs to disable their energy shields without causing permanent harm to the surrounding areas. Precision is key." The plan was set into motion with military precision. Resistance cells around the world prepared for the strike, knowing well the risks involved. Mark led one of the main assaults in Europe, where a major Verox command center was located. As the teams moved into position, a tense silence fell over the operatives, each one aware that the success of this mission could determine the outcome of the war. At the designated time, Mark's team breached the perimeter of the Verox command center. Explosions rocked the ground as EMPs disabled the alien shields, and human fighters surged forward. The Verox, taken by surprise, scrambled to mount a defense, but the intensity and coordination of the human attack overwhelmed them. From his position, Mark directed the teams, moving them strategically through the compound. Every corridor cleared, every room secured brought them closer to victory. The resistance fighters, empowered by their immunity devices and fueled by a fierce desire for freedom, fought with a ferocity that stunned their alien adversaries. As the battle raged, Mark received updates from other locations. The news was overwhelmingly positive. The global strike was succeeding. Verox installations were falling, their control slipping away as Earth's forces reclaimed their ground. The fight at the European Command Center reached its climax as Mark and his team cornered the last of the Verox defenders. With the alien troops surrendering or incapacitated, the humans secured the facility, capturing valuable technology and intelligence in the process. Breathing heavily, Mark surveyed the scene, his heart heavy with the cost, but buoyed by their success. "We've done it. We've actually done it," he murmured, almost in disbelief. Tom clapped him on the back, a wide grin on his face despite the exhaustion and grime. "We couldn't have done it without you, Mark. Your plan, your leadership, it made all the difference." As they awaited extraction, Dr. Sandoval joined them, his eyes reflecting the fires still burning in parts of the compound. "This is a turning point, a real one. But the war isn't over yet. We need to stay sharp, rebuild, and prepare. They'll regroup, and so must we." Mark nodded, knowing the road ahead was still long and uncertain. Yet, this victory had shown the world that the Verox were not invincible, that humans could fight back and win. For now, that was enough to keep the fires of resistance burning bright. After their resounding victory in the global strikes, Mark, Tom, and Dr. Sandoval had barely a moment to breathe before intelligence confirmed their fears. The Verox were not yet defeated. Gathering their remaining forces, the aliens were planning a decisive counterstrike directly at the heart of the human resistance's operations. The battle-hardened leaders prepared for what they knew could be the ultimate confrontation. "Looks like they're throwing everything they have at us," Tom observed grimly, reviewing satellite images showing large clusters of Verox ships regrouping. Dr. Sandoval nodded, peering over Tom's shoulder. "Their numbers have dwindled, but remember, desperation makes an enemy dangerous. We need to be vigilant." Mark, ever the strategist, laid out their defensive plan with precision. "We'll fortify every entry point. Tom, your tech team needs to ensure all anti-control devices are at maximum efficiency. Eric, double-check our communications jamming systems. We can't afford any breaches." As preparations escalated, the Resistance fortified their headquarters with multiple layers of defenses, anti-aircraft systems, and ground troops ready for close combat. The air was tense with anticipation and the weight of what was to come. The initial wave of the Verox assault began with a barrage of energy blasts from the sky, testing the defenses Mark and his team had painstakingly set up. The Resistance's anti-air defenses responded fiercely, downing several Verox crafts in bursts of alien fire. "Keep the line steady. Hold your positions," Mark commanded through the comm system, his voice a grounding force amid the chaos. Tom, leading a squad on the ground, maneuvered his team through debris and smoke, targeting vulnerable points in the Verox's armor with precision weaponry. "Push them back. Every inch they gain is one we'll have to reclaim." Meanwhile, Dr. Sandoval oversaw the technical command, ensuring their communications remained unhacked and functional. When a section of their digital defenses faltered under a Verox cyber attack, he was quick to reroute the systems, keeping their operational integrity intact. "Mark, we have multiple breaches along the southeast perimeter," one of the commanders reported over the comm. Mark quickly redirected reinforcements, joining the front lines to rally his troops. "Hold the line. We've pushed them back before. We can do it again." As the battle waged, a critical turn occurred. A rogue Verox commander, driven by desperation, attempted a kamikaze strike at the central command hub. Recognizing the imminent threat, Mark personally took to an anti-air turret, his actions swift and decisive. With a well-aimed shot, he disabled the incoming craft, causing it to crash harmlessly away from their position. The tide of the battle began to turn. The Verox, realizing their last gambit had failed, started to retreat under the relentless human counterattack. Mark's leadership and the indomitable spirit of the human fighters had held firm against what was meant to be a crushing blow. As the last of the Verox forces withdrew, the skies above the headquarters cleared, leaving only the smoke of battle and the debris of alien machines as testament to the fierce fighting. Mark, Tom, and Dr. Sandoval convened amidst the aftermath, their faces weary but relieved. "We've done it," Mark stated, allowing the weight of their victory to settle. They threw everything at us, and we stood strong. This is more than a win. It's a declaration. Tom clapped Mark on the back, a grin spreading across his face. Thanks to you, buddy. Your plans, your leadership, they saved us. Dr. Sandoval, looking around at the recovering troops and damaged defenses, added thoughtfully, This victory is crucial, but we must stay vigilant. The Verox are weakened, but not extinct. We need to prepare for peace as much as we did for war. Their resilience had seen them through the darkest hours, and as they began to rebuild, the leaders of the resistance knew this battle would mark the beginning of a new chapter for humanity. One where they were no longer defenders of their home, but architects of a new era. The dust settled over the battlegrounds, and the alien threat of the Verox had been decisively quelled. Earth's cities, though scarred by the conflicts, began to buzz with the sounds of reconstruction and renewal. Mark, Tom, and Dr. Sandoval stood on the rooftop of the restored headquarters, looking out over a city that was slowly coming back to life. We did it, Mark. We actually did it, Tom said, his voice filled with a mixture of disbelief and pride. Mark nodded, his eyes scanning the horizon. We did, but it wasn't just us. It took every single person, fighting in their own way, to make this happen. Dr. Sandoval adjusted his glasses, his gaze thoughtful. The challenge now is to build a future that honors those who sacrificed so much. We need to use what we've learned to prevent anything like this from happening again. The trio discussed plans for securing Earth's defenses and extending an olive branch to any remaining Verox, hoping to establish a peace treaty. They understood that true victory wasn't just in winning the war, but in how they rebuilt in its aftermath. In the weeks that followed, Mark took on a new role, one that leveraged his leadership and tactical acumen to bridge the gaps between nations and repurpose former military alliances into peacekeeping and scientific collaborations. The anti-control technology was adapted to serve as a means of enhancing communication and understanding, not just among humans, but potentially with other civilizations. Tom spearheaded the technological redevelopment, focusing on integrating Verox technology with human ingenuity to create sustainable solutions for energy, transport, and healthcare. Who would have thought, Tom mused one afternoon while working on a new propulsion system, that their tech could someday power hospitals or help grow food faster? Dr. Sandoval, meanwhile, led a new global scientific coalition, dedicated to studying not only the Verox technology, but also ensuring that Earth's scientific community was prepared for any future encounters with alien species. His work, once focused on the stars, now also aimed to safeguard Earth. As the world rebuilt, Mark often visited the memorials that sprang up in cities around the globe, honoring those lost in the conflict. It was during one such visit, under the shadow of a large, serene monument, that he truly felt the weight and significance of their victory. A young girl, no more than 10, approached him during one of these visits. "Are you Mark Jensen?" she asked, her eyes wide with a mix of reverence and curiosity. "Yes, I am," Mark replied, kneeling to meet her gaze. "My mom says you helped save the world," she said solemnly. Mark smiled, ruffling her hair gently. "I had a lot of help. It was people like your mom, people all over the world who really saved it." The girl nodded, seemingly satisfied with his answer, and ran off to join her friends. Standing up, Mark looked around at the peaceful park, the laughter of children mixing with the conversations of families. It was a sound of hope, of a future secured. As he rejoined Tom and Dr. Sandoval, who were waiting for him by the monument, a sense of contentment settled over him. "We've got a lot of work ahead of us," he said as they walked back to their meeting. "Yes, but for the first time, it feels like we're truly moving forward," Dr. Sandoval replied, the three friends walking shoulder to shoulder into the new era they had helped forge.